hello, and welcome in to Bear With Us on the Bear Claw Media podcast feed. I am Chris Bolin, joined as always by Ben Schleiger. But, buddy, before I ask you how you doing, we have a very special guest here today. I'm a guy who really kind of go down in the annals of UNC history, UNC football history. I don't think you can really tell the story of the program, especially when you're looking back in 10 years, I imagine, without bringing this guy's name up. Keone, quarterback for UNC. How you doing today, man? Appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Appreciate you guys having me on here.
All right, awesome. So we're, May 14th here today, Wednesday afternoon. Spring ball wrapped up a little bit over a week ago. So how are vibes? I know you nursing an injury from last year, still or recovering from an injury. But how are vibes around the team? How are things looking through spring?
Yeah, I mean, just talking about spring ball, this year is a little different for me, just kind of watching and not participating, but just from a different perspective, it looks like everybody's really hungry and really just focusing on improving every day. And everybody just seems to have a good mindset and good attitude, and so it's been pretty good.
Ben, all you. Sorry. I was just before we just sit here for another 10 seconds.
Sorry. I was waiting for the toss off, Chris. Yeah, Kai, great to have you on today. UNC's passing leader from last season. Last season was definitely a weird season, a lot of up and down for the team. Kind of just talk about how it was to take over a D1 role. You came from Colorado Mesa, and you really scratched and grinded to get to the college level. How was it to have that first D1 season under your belt?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of everything you worked for as a kid, like you always want to go play D1. And so, yeah, after being at Colorado Mesa, I made a decision that I wanted to, try and make it out of D1 program and make a difference and get on the field. And so, yeah, I mean, last season, the way things turned out, I got a bunch of opportunities to play for UNC and, play in the field. And it meant a lot, definitely wish as a program, we could have got more wins, but it was good to get in the field and play with the new teammates that I just made.
How, coming in, I imagine the goal is always I'm going to compete, I'm going to work my way up the depth chart, but I'm sure as sitting maybe around 4 on the depth chart, you're probably not super expecting to get an opportunity, let alone is kind of large of one as you got last year. How did that come to be? Maybe because you weren't even here last spring, right? You came in for fall camp. And then from when you got here, how kind of did that progression up? And when did you kind of know, my number, there's a good chance my number may be called here today?
Yeah, like you said, I wasn't even here in spring ball. I got a late call in summer to come right before fall camp. So it was kind of a late decision, a quick addition to the team. But yeah, I mean, throughout fall camp, I just, studied the playbook, make sure my focus on the playbook was nothing that's going to hold me back. Make sure the coaches know that, I know just as much as the starters and everybody that's been there in spring ball, make sure I know that's the only thing you can focus on. And then just throughout fall camp, making sure I just made some splash plays. It's kind of, they want to see glimpses of what you can do. And so I made sure to focus on that. And then, yeah, throughout the beginning of the season, there were some injuries. And, as more injuries came down, I kind of knew that the opportunity would be there, more than before. And so, yeah, as time went on, obviously my number got called, and then I had to make sure I was ready.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like you made the most of the opportunity. I mean, you were 4th on the team in rushing, 1st on the team in passing, and overall for touchdowns, you were 3rd overall. So seems like a great season compared to, just what the season was as it is with 1 win. Just a great production there. What was it like trying to prepare each week, having uncertainty on what the offensive line was going to be like, and how many different quarterbacks Lamb wanted to use? What kind of kept you grounded in preparing each week for trying to keep some consistency?
Yeah, I mean, I think a mindset I have and a lot of other quarterbacks at the higher levels have is to always prepare like you're the starter. And so even at the beginning, I was always preparing, watching film and, going through our game reports that I was a starter. And as time got closer, obviously you have to prepare for each week. So it's just watching film and taking quality reps every practice, trying to get as much game reps in practice, and yeah, just talking with the O-line and receivers throughout the weeks, that all helps out as well.
How much is there to one thing we've been kind of chatting about on the phone, me and Ben, like the kind of what the receiver room may look like next year with Carver coming back. And it felt like he kind of thrived later in the season. How much of that is like you guys kind of, at least when he switched over and before you, I'm not sure how much the timeline like matches up, but before you kind of stepped into that starter role, we're maybe getting some more reps together as backups, or did it just kind of fall like that? And then how important is that chemistry between quarterback and receivers, especially?
Yeah, for him, I mean, I don't think we really got too many reps before, I got thrown into the role. But I mean, sometimes quarterbacks and receivers, they just click. And so, I mean, a lot of times you see he was making plays and I was just putting the ball up. And I mean, the chemistry is real. It's good to practice, in practice and get those reps down. And but yeah, the chemistry was good. And so hoping to build on that next year.
It was kind of interesting. Your journey from here. You took a lot of miles to get to UNC for sure. I know we talked before you came to UNC. Can you kind of talk about how that recruiting process was post graduating from Mesa? Because I know you worked really hard and you came to the mainland and played in Utah before you went to Colorado Mesa. Really just earned your way all the way through that. How did that process look going from Mesa to UNC? Because I know you're looking for a home, but you really need it to work with the major and what you want to do post football.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, my whole life, I already said earlier, like the D1 was the dream. And so, yeah, my senior year, I moved out to Utah to play because Hawaii, we canceled sports because of COVID. And so getting that film helped me to get to Colorado Mesa. And yeah, after I entered the portal there as a grad transfer, it was interesting because I knew a lot of my friends went through that process, and now I was like, okay, now it's my turn to go through this to see how it was. But I had a bunch of opportunities more out east. So I took a visit out to Dayton a few weeks before I made the decision to come to UNC. But at some point, I had all the schools laid out. I had pros and cons. The main pros I came to UNC for was it's closer west to being at home, and also the track record with the coaching staff was something I wanted to be a part of. But yeah, I mean, I was always trying to reach out to colleges, get my name out there, because the transfer portal is just it's a whole lot of stuff. So, but I'm glad things worked out.
So what was you had graduated from Mesa, correct? So what was the idea entering the portal? Did you have a feeling you would have a couple like higher level offers? Did you kind of just wanted to go out and see where you may have a chance to play at? What was kind of your mindset when you entered the portal?
Yeah, I think for me, I had a decent feeling of how the recruiting landscape worked, and I knew that I would find an opportunity. And so after I graduated, I just felt like, it was time for something new, time for, a new opportunity. And like I said, the D1 was always a dream. So that was kind of the motivation behind it.
So how did it look, just difference-wise between Mesa and UNC? Because I know kind of UNC gets made a little bit of the fun of the joke of like, oh, they're just an RMAC school at the FCS level. Kind of like resource-wise, facilities, just overall feel and operations-wise. How do you think Mesa stacks up against UNC and what?
Yeah, I'd say with UNC, I mean, there's more talent than we have at the RMAC level. I'd say something I'd see is just there's just more people helping out. There's more hands. There's more student assistants, more grad assistants, stuff like that. So there's just more people around the facility. I think the weight room that we have at UNC is great. It's been a good place for us to work out, and probably just the level of competition and traveling. Like we fly every games. At Colorado Mesa, we'd bus every games, and so we do like 9-hour, 10-hour bus rides to go to South Dakota or New Mexico sometimes, and those are rough. So I'd say, yeah, that's probably the difference right there.
So were you just back in your element, taking the bus up to Weber State, and it just all kind of clicked for that win up there?
That's honestly like what I was thinking. Like on the bus ride there, I was like, this feels like natural to me. Everybody was tripping out, but I was like, this is just kind of what we did at D2. So yeah, maybe that helped out with the whole experience going to Weber. So maybe you should take more buses. I don't know.
Yeah, I bet you might have some teammates who may not want to hear you say that. But can you, as a
Yeah,
UNC fan, that Weber win was just so sweet. Like on that last interception that we got, like I just hollered from my kitchen, probably scared the hell out of my wife. Like how, and then that video from the locker room was just awesome. How, like I'm sure it's kind of hard to put into words, but how was that like moment from during game, like, and when you know you've picked up that victory, like how did that hit?
yeah, like you said, that game was special, and that was a momentum builder for for years to come. But I mean that game was fun, especially because for me, my family came up for the first time to watch me play, so that was a great game for them to choose. But yeah, I mean, making plays throughout the whole game, that was fun. And then that last interception, I don't know if I was just on the bench in the background, just standing, just hoping that we got to stop. And so when we got that interception, that was felt really good. And I didn't even get this. I wasn't even in the locker room when all that stuff was happening. I was still out on the field, but I saw the videos and stuff. But it was a good experience.
I was gonna say that made for a great highlight. Your 21-yard run on that, when you were there and had that great move to hit the outside. What were you thinking during that time? Was it just, you know, were you just trying to make the best of the play and whatnot, and just happened to turn out to be a great highlight and a touchdown, or was that just like, okay, my hot reads are not there, so I'm just gonna take what I can get and see what it turns into.
Yeah, like that play was supposed to be a sprint out to the right, and um yeah, just had people in places not weren't supposed to be, and so I just kind of reacted. And I feel like the best times you make plays is when you react, and so I was glad I reacted the right way, and yeah, I was happy I scored right there.
Well, until Chris comes back on, I'll just take over for a little bit. So I know you said the coaching degree was a huge thing what you're looking for in a grad school and whatnot. Any ideas what you want to use that for, post college and whatnot?
Yeah, so at Colorado Mesa, I graduated with sport management degree, and now I'm in a sport administration. And my main focus is staying around the game of football as long as possible. And so what I want to do is just be in the football scouting and recruiting and player personnel. Like that's the industry that I want to stick in. And the goal is to be like the first Hawaiian college GM or NFL GM. That's kind of what I aspire to be.
There we go. Yeah, Chris, I was just saying what Kiai was going to use his degree for and whatnot. So kind of that business aspect gets you a little bit more excited rather than the educational, being the schools. You want to try to move up and see where highest heights can go in the front offices and whatnot.
Yeah, basically, I just want to. I love the roster building process of football, and I think there's so much like strategy that goes into it. So I just think it just be fun, especially like you're getting paid to go watch people play football and scout them out and make them join your team. Like
If
sounds like
you
a pretty fun job to
not
me.
sorry to hop back in here, but what would be your scouting report on yourself if you were watching yourself play as a scout?
It's a good question. I've never heard somebody ask me that before. Um, I guess they'd probably say he's a smart quarterback that knows where to put the ball and um, is athletic and can get out of situations to extend plays and accurate with the football, and is able to lead by example and can make sure everybody rallies towards one goal.
Here's a really important question. Is going to totally determine what we think about you. Who's your favorite Madden quarterback to use?
Probably the funniest thing about me is I hate Madden. I don't play
Fair enough.
Madden a lot.
I
It's a good
figured roster
question.
building that might,
True.
Madden might be, your favorite part might be the off-season part of it.
I might just say Tua just because of the Hawaii connection, but I feel like Lamar would be pretty fun to play with just because he's so fast. I don't know if that's a popular pick, but yeah, I don't play Madden. I don't play video games too much,
Nice.
so
Yeah,
that's probably who I pick,
what are
though.
some of the hobbies? If you're
fair.
not playing video games, I imagine looking at your background, you're in a great spot to be outside, enjoy the weather. But not sure if it's quite too hot down there yet. Still middle of May, but Yeah, when you're not thinking football, not playing football, what are some things you enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, I like doing stuff outdoors, but I feel like a lot of people say that. But I like hiking, going to the beach, stuff like that. Um, I love just watching sports, so I love going to sporting events, going to concerts, that type of stuff, and
Ooh,
also just like I like thrifting, so going to thrift stores and then recently I've been into reading, stuff like that. So just try to
hey,
do a
nice.
bunch of
The
different
thrift
stuff.
stores, is that you looking for like clothes finds for different like what's any good pulls lately?
Yeah, I mean just clothes, stuff like that. But before a while ago, my hobby used to be like reselling. So I used to be on Facebook Marketplace all the time. I still am, but I feel like there's a lot more resellers now than before. So everything's kind of saturated. But yeah, I just like
That's
buying
fair.
stuff that's
Imagine
not
Ben
super
going
expensive,
like
basically.
buying a like a couple shirts off of Facebook Marketplace, and you show up and the UNC starting quarterback meets you at the door. Yeah, pull out the
Hey, we gotta
iPad
make
for
sure
him.
we tip on that order too, right?
But you mentioned the coaching staff. This is what I was going to ask before this public Wi-Fi or public library Wi-Fi decided to drop me. Um, the coaching staff was a big part in your decision to come to UNC. Were was Ed Lamb somebody you were aware of? Like when you came to did you first hear about him when you came to Utah? Because still at BYU had done what he did at Southern Utah, or was that just once you had entered the portal and were kind of weighing your options, you saw his track record in the Big Sky, and were like, maybe this is the guy to hitch my wagon to.
Yeah, for me, like BYU was kind of a school I was always looking at, and so I think his name was familiar in my mind. But yeah, definitely when I looked into the portal and when I looked into UNC and I did my research, I was able to see kind of his whole track record. And so at that point, I kind of looked into him and
And
what he's been able to
what you were
accomplish.
kind of expecting versus what you've gotten, is he what you kind of thought? One thing, just listen to him and on Football 52, and then also being around him from time to time around the program. He has like more of a sense of humor than I would expect, because like you really like see him, you think Ed Lamb, like he's like lives he's either under a rock or he's like watching football, but he does seem like a personable guy. Like, was there any surprises when you got here about him and kind of the staff as a whole?
Kind of like you said, like yeah, like there's more more humor from him than you'd expect. Like he's super wise and he's always he finds different jokes that you may not think of. But yeah, I mean he's very football oriented. Football is obviously big in his life, and that's kind of what you want in your head coach. And he has other hobbies as well, so it's not all football. But when it comes down to it, he's being serious and he's making sure that we're going to be prepared as we can.
I'm gonna say, what's your outside of just the football stuff? Um, what's your favorite memory from the football team so far? Of just whether a lot of people say the bus ride from Weber State was great. Other people just say the camaraderie. What's your favorite part of UNC football that the fans might always get to see?
Yeah, I mean it's probably cliche, but it is the camaraderie. It's like we're always in the locker room after practice or before practice, stuff like that. I think if you ask anybody, I'm always the last one out of the locker room. I don't know why. I'm always in there after practice, just talking to everybody and making jokes. But it's being there, and it's being in the dining hall, also in the weight room. So just being around the guys is
What are your
probably the
thoughts
best part.
on Greeley? Because I can't believe it took us about 20 minutes into this to realize we're sitting here in Greeley and you're sitting in Hawaii, the exact opposite of Greeley. Or I guess the South Park joke kind of goes the other way around. But what have you thought about Greeley since you got here? Because it's kind of similar to the program. It has its own reputation, like a cow town. But it smells when the wind's blowing the wrong direction. But what have you thought since you got here?
It's kind of bad because like yeah, before I got there, there's a bunch of like people like obviously talking about the smell, obviously talking about all these different things. But for me, it's been good. Like it has everything you need. Um, there's some people who are more sensitive. They're like, "Oh, I can't handle the smell," and I'm like, "If you can't handle it, like, just you can head out. Like, it's not like, you just have to grow up and stuff." But it's not. It's honestly not that bad. But no, I liked it. It's now one of my homes that I call home. So yeah, I like it a lot.
Nice. Whenever you're not in the weight room or doing football stuff, what's some of your favorite things to do around Greeley? We were talking to Quinn Janker, and his hot
Chili
spot
Tide,
is
man. Chili Tide. He's gonna
Taiwan,
yell at you.
and he can't get enough of that and whatnot. Always find him there. What's kind of your go-to spots around Greeley, or just different hobbies that you like to do around Colorado?
Yeah, Loki, that place is one of my places. I like that place as well. I've been kind of going to Qdoba and Chipotle a lot. That's just kind of been easy. But
You and Quinn need to hook
Yeah.
up because Chipotle was his other answer
Fair
to
enough.
that question too.
Oh, Chris's public Wi-Fi is about as good as free
Chris is going
Wi-Fi.
out.
So. Man, oh well, that's what you get for being a mooch, Chris. So we're gonna
Yeah,
make fun of him.
I
until he
even
comes
switch
back.
Wi-Fi's and it
You
doesn't
back,
seem to
buddy?
work, but it always typically the final version comes out better. So hopefully we're in that same boat here today. I know. Yeah, get me on that employee stuff. Don't you know who I am? No, but if you can hear me, all right. What's the outlook? Yeah, everybody's actually clear on my
I can
end,
hear
so I
you.
may have a rare good spot. What's the outlook for the team moving forward? Because it felt from the outside, you guys felt so close in a number of games, especially kind of earlier in the year, like you were right there. But then obviously the record doesn't show it. So how close do you think this team is, and what are you kind of expecting moving into this next season?
Yeah, like you said, we're close. But in football, like, close doesn't matter. So like, it doesn't matter how close you are. You got to make the wins possible. And so we have to figure out, a lot of teams, what I've noticed after like just watching football, a lot of teams lose games versus a lot of teams win games. And so we just have to, we've had so many just mistakes, in games that we have to shorten up, make sure that doesn't happen. And obviously we have the talent. We can make it happen. And so it's kind of how much we can focus on the details. Everybody says details, but the details are what matters. And so we are close, but we have to just make a decision that we're tired of being close.
Do you think there's anything to
winning.
the we need to learn how to win thing? Because I feel like everybody kind of falls somewhere different. And I know Lamb, when I first asked him that at the beginning of last year, he's like, I don't really see it that way. I think if we do the right things, the wins will come. And then it feels like he's almost kind of came around on that theory. Maybe he was just trying to appease me, but where do you fall on kind of the needing to learn to win thing?
It's hard. I think there's some people who are just like, they just know how to win, and so they don't really need to learn. But I can see some people not knowing how to handle success as well. So I think there's maybe a dynamic about that,
Okay.
but that hasn't really been something I've thought about too much.
Is there anything else? I think that's kind of all we have. Anything you want to add? Anything we didn't touch on, maybe?
No, not really. I appreciate you guys, time on this interview, and I'm glad we got people excited for us and people who support us. That means a lot, especially being at a smaller D1 FCS program. So yeah, I'm gonna make sure that everybody's ready, and
All right.
we put
Awesome.
our best foot
Thank
forward.
you
towards
so
this
much,
next season.
Kiai. As always, if you like what we're doing, not you, this is to the general greater audience. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell your mom to like and subscribe. If you don't like what we're doing, Ben's DMs on Twitter are always open. That's, I believe, at Bearclaw Media. Ben, do you wanna handle? See, I keep getting the complaints, even though I say very vividly that your DMs are open. But have a good one, everybody. Again, thank you, Kiai, so much for coming on here, man.
Thank you.